Well, let me introduce myself first of all. I'm Christopher Squire and I come from Sheffield, Yorkshire. I studied up in Sheffield, and that's where I started to do my languages. I studied then, after grammar school I moved to Leicester University where I took a degree in French. Spent a tremendous year as an assistant in a French lycée in Orléans, where even to this day I have a tremendous number of contacts amongst the staff and pupils who remain lifelong friends. And that is one tremendous benefit of studying languages, the ability to meet people from other cultures, other lands, and to make really good friends. And if you meet them when you're young, they mean much more and they get much more depth. So after 3 years at Leicester, I took a job with British Steel in those days and started life in Scunthorpe, where I got a basic grounding in the technology, helped by the steel company with various courses and picking up vocabulary, picking up steel making theories as I went along. As I got more trained and more skilled in my knowledge of the industry, I then proceeded to move about a bit. So after 7 years in Scunthorpe, I moved to Montreal, where I spent 9 months. Very, very enjoyable months. In Montreal, a tremendous city, multilingual, but particularly French, francophile. So the ability to speak French was a great advantage. Added to that, you met a tremendous different culture of business in North America, and it widened my experience tremendously. Following the period in Montreal, I then went over briefly to Vancouver and then spent a week or two down in Houston, Texas. Came back and within 6 months took a job as a market development salesman in Motherwell for the plates division. Plates involved with shipbuilding, building bridges, boiler making, pressure vessels, North Sea oil installations and that sort of thing. So I worked there for 5 years, and then I got an opportunity to go and work as a product manager in Paris. So I moved to Paris, rented a flat, let my house, and worked for 3 years in the role of chef de produit, looking after various products throughout the French territory. Tremendous year, chance to really benefit from total immersion in the French language, and really built my ability to converse with overseas people, to negotiate with other overseas people, conclude deals, and follow up, which is most important, when things were not always going right, follow up corrective actions and restore confidence in people. And that is probably the hardest thing to do, to convince overseas customers that not only when things go right you can ability to do in their language, but also to restore confidence in periods of problems, because people haven't time when they've got problems to is English, we'll give him benefit of the doubt, is that you've got to be seen to be operating as you land. So after 3 years in Paris, I then moved back to the UK briefly before moving off to Dubai, where I spent a year prospecting the market for sheet piling in foundation work. So I saw Dubai, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, Qatar, Saudi Arabia. I decided that I wasn't going to take a job in Saudi Arabia, so I came back to the UK and then moved to the tin plate and packaging area in Upper Vale, and I became an account manager looking after customers in the UK. I mentioned that Heinz was one of the customers I looked after, and also packaging companies in France, Spain, Italy and Belgium. I moved from packaging to automotive in 2003, and that's where I am now, an account manager, automotive, based in Newport. I think, looking back at my career, I think it does show, and I have evidence, a lot of evidence, say that the ability to speak a foreign language has many benefits, and certainly Tata is looking for people who can operate efficiently and what's the word I'm looking for? Can articulate confidently in a foreign language. I think that's one of the most important things that you gradually build up. You can study the language in a textbook, but it's total immersion by sight, by audio means that really gets you going in your ability to do business in the foreign language. That takes a lot of doing, particularly on the telephone when you can't see the other people that you're actually talking to. So I built up skills in the languages in my role as account manager. I visit the overseas territories 2 or 3 times a year for a week at a time, visiting the customers, discussing sales plans, budgets, negotiating prices and volumes, looking at new products. Maybe I'm chairing meetings, but the ability to speak both languages is you can be quite a good chairman, and the problem there is probably remaining unbiased. A good chairman has to remain unbiased, but it's a role that Tata does benefit from having somebody who can do that. So also, when I come back to this country, I'm constantly in the office using my languages. Most days I have at least 2 conversations in either French or German. Constantly replying to long-winded emails in the foreign language, so I'm always using it, and I think that it's good. But looking for careers in general for youngsters coming on from schools now, there are 2 aspects to the ability to speak languages. You can be a linguist, and you can see opportunities for using your languages in careers within industry, within exporting, within marketing, within market research. You've also got opportunities for adapting foreign languages with law, with accountancy, with medicine for that matter. There's a lot of opportunities for linguists to use their languages and become very, very beneficial members of the company. There are also opportunities for scientists, budding engineers, physicists, to get further by having at least a working knowledge of a foreign language. I look at the project, I think straight away, the CERN project in Geneva, where they got the cracker, the atom cracker. A lot of people are employed on that, on white heat technology projects to discover the creation of the universe. A lot of opportunities for physicists, and it's so much better and it's so much easier for a physicist who can get by in either French or German out there, and tremendous opportunities. There are other opportunities based on companies now being increasingly pan-European or global, so they're going to take on people who can operate landing, as it were. There's no time to really get used to it. They want people who can operate when they get there, and even a working knowledge is useful. I'm just thinking of when I went to France. There's quite a lot of help to you and benefit to you being able to speak a language if you want to rent a flat, if you want to sort out your tax affairs, if you want to order a meal, obviously, if you want to rent a car, if you want to have a problem with the police. It's useful to be able to have a basic knowledge of the language of the country you're operating in. So that's linguists finding opportunities for their languages in a broad spectrum of careers. That's the advantage of science and technology students maintaining at least a working knowledge of or maybe 1 or 2 foreign languages, which will benefit them in widening their career opportunities, widening their commercial ability, if you like, their ability to sort of compete with students from Europe who usually have a far better knowledge of English than we do of their languages. So increasingly the labour force, the labour market is pan-European, and to be able to compete in that you've really got to be able to speak at least some of the languages.